Ever walk into a room and just, like, feel someone's eyes on you? You know that feeling, right?
Right. Well, get ready, because today we're going deep on the subtle signs of attraction.
Oh, yeah, and I'm talking about way more than just someone straight up throwing roses at you.
Exactly.
This is about all those little things that, well, they could just be coincidence, right?
Yeah.
Or
They could mean something more.
exactly
So much more.
a whole lot more.
And to decode all this, we're diving into this article. It's called "A Woman Who Is Deeply Attracted to You Is Always Doing This in Front of You."
Catchy title, right?
Super catchy. But don't worry, we're not going to, like, teach you mind control or anything.
No. Think of it more like we're giving you the keys to a secret code.
Ooh, I like that. A secret code.
Yeah. And speaking of secret codes, let's talk about eye contact for a second.
Okay, yeah, eye contact.
Obviously, we all make eye contact. It's, it's polite, right?
Mhm.
But the article really zeroes in on what it calls prolonged eye contact.
Okay, interesting. So, like, more than just a quick glance, way more. Like, there's a big difference between, like, a quick glance and a look that really lingers.
It's like they say the eyes are the windows to the soul,
Mhm.
right? But what's really happening there when someone holds your gaze?
Well, get this. Studies actually show that when you've got that extended eye contact going on, it actually triggers your brain to release oxytocin.
Oxytocin.
Yeah, sometimes called the love hormone.
Oh, the love hormone.
Exactly. It creates, like, this sense of connection, intimacy, and get this, it can happen even if you've literally just met someone.
Whoa, so that lingering gaze, maybe it's not just good manners, maybe it's like her brain chemistry saying, hey, I'm into you.
Could be.
Wow, that's
Ah.
fascinating. But okay, what if I'm the one feeling that pull, right? Like, I'm locked in. Is it weird to stare back? Does that get creepy?
Not if you do it right. Think of it like a feedback loop. If you return her gaze, but you do it confidently, it actually makes that feeling even stronger.
So it's like unspoken flirting.
You could say that. Intimacy without even saying a word. Pretty powerful stuff.
Definitely powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, so I shouldn't be afraid to lock eyes for a little longer if I'm feeling it too. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, moving on from eyes to the rest of the body, the article talks a lot about body language. What should we be looking for there?
Right, so body language.
Yeah.
This is huge. And what we want to focus on are signs of open and engaged body language.
Okay, open and engaged. Got it.
Yeah.
What does that look like exactly?
So think about, like, if she's leaning in during your conversation or if her shoulders are facing you directly. And a big one is arms uncrossed. It's basically her body saying, hey, I'm open to this. Come on in.
Come on in, the water's fine. I like that.
Yeah.
And then there's that whole thing about mirroring, which I find super fascinating. You know, like when you're talking to someone and they kind of copy your posture or hand gestures without even realizing it.
Oh, yeah, mirroring. It's a classic. Have you ever noticed how, like, you subconsciously kind of mimic the posture or gestures of someone you're really vibing with?
All the time.
That's mirroring in action. Your brain's basically saying, hey, we're on the same wavelength here.
We get each other.
Totally. And the cool thing is you can actually use this to your advantage. Like, if you subtly mirror her body language, it creates this subconscious sense of harmony, connection.
Whoa, so I could try that out? Subtly, of course.
Subtlety is key.
Okay, noted. Okay, next up, we got to talk about laughter. This one always makes things more fun.
Absolutely. And this is pretty intuitive, right? Like, if a woman laughs easily around you, even if your jokes are totally bombing,
Oh, no.
it's usually a good sign.
Okay, good. So even if I'm not a comedian, laughter is a good thing.
It's a great thing. Think about it. Laughter is all about, like, letting your guard down, feeling comfortable, you know?
Totally. It's like she's sharing a little piece of joy with you. And you know what they say? Laughter is contagious.
So true. And there's a scientific reason for that, actually. You know, laughter releases endorphins, those feel-good chemicals.
Endorphins make you happy.
Right. So it's not just a sign of attraction, it's actually making the interaction more enjoyable for both of you. You're building a positive association.
So make her laugh, and you're golden. I like it. Okay, now the article also gets into casual physical touch. Not in a creepy way, but those little things, you know.
Yeah, those little touches can be huge. Think of them as, like, subtle tests to see how comfortable you both are and how you respond.
Okay, I'm listening. Give me some examples.
Like a brush of the hand when you're both reaching for something, or a light tap on the shoulder during a conversation.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
But how do you know if it's accidental or if it's, on purpose?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Well, it's all about frequency, and if it, like, lingers for a beat longer than you'd expect. If it happens often, and those touches last just a fraction of a second longer, That's a pretty clear signal.
So I got to pay attention to those little details.
Exactly. Think about it from her perspective. She's initiating physical contact. Even if it's brief, it's a big deal.
Wow, that's definitely a confidence booster.
Yeah.
But it also makes you wonder, like, what is it about your presence that makes her want to make that contact?
All right, shifting gears a little.
Let's talk about curiosity. Because the article really emphasizes how, if a woman's deeply attracted, she'll go beyond the surface level chit-chat. She'll dig deeper.
Oh, absolutely. She'll ask about your passions, your dreams, those bigger things. It's not just small talk.
So not just, what do you do? But more like, what gets you out of bed in the morning? That kind of thing.
Exactly. It's like she wants to understand the core of who you are. And that shows a level of investment that's pretty significant.
It's deep.
It is. And for you, listening right now, if she's asking those questions, it's like an open door to be vulnerable, share your authentic self.
Yeah, like an unspoken invitation to connect on a deeper level. Okay, so those deep conversations, definitely a good sign. What else do we have in our attraction decoder ring?
Well, the article points out that you should be watching for subtle adjustments to her appearance.
Okay, how so?
Like if she's fixing her hair or adjusting her clothes or even touching up her jewelry, and she does it specifically when you're around,
Yeah.
that's something to notice.
So it's not just about, like, general preening. It's about wanting to look their best for you.
Right. If you're attracted to someone, you naturally want to make a good impression. It's totally normal.
Makes sense.
And it's not always about vanity either. It's about feeling confident and attractive in your presence.
Ooh, I like that. So she's putting in the extra effort.
Exactly. You know, there's even a specific detail in the article about women checking their reflection in nearby surfaces when you're around.
No way, really.
Yeah.
I like to keep an eye out for that one. Okay, now, last but not least, we got to talk about something that might seem a little counterintuitive. Nervous energy.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Because, I don't know, it seems like if someone's nervous around you, that's not a good thing.
It might seem strange, but honestly, fidgeting, blushing, even stumbling over words, those can actually be signs of attraction too. Think about those butterflies you get when you're around someone you like.
Oh yeah, the butterflies.
Right, she might play with her hair, shift in her seat, laugh nervously. It's all just her body processing those feelings of attraction.
So it's not a red flag, it's more like she's just a little flustered because she's into me. That's kind of cute, actually.
Exactly. It's authentic, it's vulnerable, and honestly, it's quite endearing.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. From eye contact to body language, laughter, touch, curiosity, even nervous energy.
We've been busy.
But before we jump to any conclusions, I think it's important to remember that.
It's super important to remember that none of these signs exist in a vacuum. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to look at the whole picture, right? Not just one little thing in isolation.
Exactly. Like we said, it's a combination of behaviors.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have to consider the context, you know?
Oh yeah, context is huge. It's like you're putting together a puzzle.
Totally. Each piece on its own might not mean much, but when you see how they all fit together, that's when things start to become clear.
Makes sense. So don't go jumping to conclusions based on just one sign. Instead, pay attention to those patterns. You know? See if it's consistent. What's the overall vibe you're getting?
Trust your gut. You know, if you're feeling that undeniable connection, there's a good chance she's feeling it too.
I like that. Trust your gut.
Ah.
Okay, so far we've been talking about how to read her signals, which is super helpful. But what about the other side of the coin? You know, how can you send out those subtle signs of attraction?
Ooh, good question. Glad you asked. And the good news is a lot of what we've talked about actually works both ways.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for sure. So think about it. Prolonged eye contact, open body language, genuinely laughing at her jokes. Those all work to signal your interest too.
So it's like I can use these same secret codes to send my own message back.
Exactly, you got it.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, what if you want to take things a step further? Let's say you've noticed some of those signs in her and you're feeling it too. How do you actually like make a move without, coming on too strong?
Yeah, that's the art of flirting, right? Well, subtlety is key, always. Always. And one approach is to just try reciprocating those cues you're picking up on. So if she's holding your gaze, hold hers back. If she leans in, lean in subtly too.
So it's about creating that sense of you're on the same wavelength.
Exactly, like you're speaking the same language without even saying a word.
I love that. Okay, but what if I want to go beyond just mirroring? Is there a way to like escalate things gracefully, without scaring her off?
It's where confidence and a little bit of intuition come into play, you know? Like if you're feeling a strong connection and you're seeing those green lights, don't Be afraid to step it up a notch, but always subtly.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What does that look like in practice?
Well, it could be as simple as a genuine compliment, but not focused on her physical appearance, you know?
Okay, so like what?
Maybe you appreciate her sense of humor, or her intelligence, or maybe she's really passionate about something and you mention that.
Ooh, I like that. It shows you're paying attention to who she is as a person.
Right, exactly. And it opens the door for a more meaningful conversation.
So much better than just saying, hey, you have pretty eyes.
Way better. You can also try asking those open-ended questions about things she seems passionate about. It shows you're genuinely interested in getting to know her on a deeper level.
So instead of, what do you do for work, it's more like, what are you most excited about right now?
You got it. And if the conversation is flowing and you're both comfortable, you could casually suggest grabbing coffee or drinks sometime. Keep it low-key and see how she responds.
There's great advice. I'm taking notes. But what about those times when things aren't so clear-cut? What if you're getting mixed signals?
The dreaded mixed signals.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've all been there.
it's the worst.
It happens to everyone. You know, sometimes people just send out conflicting messages, whether they mean to or not.
So how do you decipher those mixed signals? Because, let's be honest, it can be so confusing.
It really can. The key is to focus on the overall pattern of behavior, not just isolated incidents. So if she's sending mixed signals, it might be because she's unsure of her own feelings, or maybe she's just not that interested. Or worst case scenario, she's playing games.
Ugh, playing games. Nobody has time for that.
I know, right? So if you're getting mixed signals, the best approach, honestly, is to be direct and communicate your intentions clearly. Just ask her how she feels and be prepared to walk away if she's not reciprocating your interest.
It's all about respecting yourself and your time. Don't waste energy chasing someone who's not giving you the same energy back. Speaking of context, earlier you mentioned how important it is to consider the context of your interactions when you're trying to interpret these signs. Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Of course, context is crucial because it helps us understand the meaning behind certain behaviors, you know? Like, for example, a woman might make prolonged eye contact with you at a crowded bar, simply because she's trying to get your attention. But that same eye contact could mean something entirely different if you're in a quiet coffee shop.
Oh yeah, that's so true. It's all about reading the room, understanding the nuances of this situation.
Exactly. Something that might seem super flirty in one context could be totally innocent in another.
You really got to pay attention to those details.
And it's also important to remember that everyone is different. Some people are naturally more touchy-feely than others, while some are more reserved. So don't make assumptions based on just one behavior.
Great point. So what's the main takeaway here when it comes to figuring out if there's a spark?
Be mindful, be observant, and don't be afraid to communicate. Pay attention to the signals, consider the context, and if you're unsure about something, just ask.
Love it, ask. That's great advice.
Oh,
Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. Attraction is a complex and fascinating dance.
it really is.
It's about intuition, chemistry, and yeah, maybe a little bit of luck.
But it's also about being open to new experiences, putting yourself out there, and most importantly, trusting your gut.
So go out there, be an attraction detective. Pay attention to the signs, embrace the mystery, and see where the journey takes you.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the fascinating world of attraction. We've decoded those subtle signs, we've talked about making moves and navigating those tricky mixed signals, and now it's time to really get into the psychology of it all.
That's right, we're going beyond just the behaviors and getting into what's really going on in our brains.
Okay, I'm ready. What makes us tick? Why are we drawn to certain people?
Well, it's a whole bunch of factors, really. It's biological, psychological, even social influences. Everything plays a part.
Okay, so where do we even start?
Well, let's start with the biological piece, because it's pretty fascinating. Our brains are actually wired, hardwired, to respond to certain cues. Things like facial symmetry or body language, even scent.
So even before we consciously think, hey, that person's attractive, our bodies are already making those assessments. Exactly, it's subconscious. And a lot of these cues, they're linked to things like health, fertility, even genetic fitness, stuff that's important for survival, you know.
Wow, it's like we have this built-in radar system constantly scanning for compatibility.
That's a great way to put it. But of course, it's not just about biology. Our psychology plays a huge role too. Our past experiences, our attachment styles, our values, all of that shapes who we're attracted to.
Okay, so how does that work? Can you give me an example?
Sure, think about this. If someone had a really secure, loving childhood, they might be more likely to seek out partners who are emotionally available, trustworthy. Makes sense, right?
Exactly.
But on the flip side, someone who maybe had a tougher upbringing, they might find themselves drawn to partners who are, say, emotionally unavailable or avoidant.
Because on some level, that dynamic feels familiar, even if it's not healthy.
Exactly. It's like we're subconsciously recreating patterns from our past, even if we don't realize it.
That's kind of deep. So biology, psychology.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, we can't forget the social piece of the puzzle. Think about the culture we live in, our friend groups, even the media we consume. All of that shapes our ideas about beauty, what we consider desirable.
So you're saying like those unrealistic beauty standards we see in movies and magazines, they actually impact who we find attractive.
They definitely play a role. It's called the halo effect. Basically, we tend to automatically associate attractive people with positive qualities, even if those qualities have nothing to do with their looks.
It's like our subconscious minds are working overtime here. It's crazy how much goes into it.
It is, but here's the good news. We're not just slaves to our biology or our past. We have the power to challenge those norms and make conscious choices.
Okay, that makes me feel better. But how do we actually do that? How do we become more self-aware in our love lives?
Well, it starts with introspection. Take some time to really think about your past relationships. What patterns do you notice? What are your absolute non-negotiables in a partner? What values are most important to you?
It's about figuring out what you truly want and not settling for anything less, right?
Right. And if you find yourself constantly attracted to people who aren't good for you, it might be time to examine those patterns.
And that's where therapy can be so helpful, right? Having an objective person to help you see those patterns.
Totally. Therapy can be amazing for that.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive. From decoding those subtle signs, to the psychology of it all, to the importance of self-awareness. What are the biggest takeaways for our listeners?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that attraction is complex. It's more than just looks. It's about energy, connection, those shared values. It's about that spark,
It's got to be exciting.
For sure. And don't forget to trust your gut. If you're feeling that pull, explore it, see where it goes. But also, pay attention to those red flags and be willing to walk away if something feels off.
It's all about knowing your worth. You deserve to be with someone who makes you feel safe, loved, supported, someone who gets you.
Absolutely. And remember, attraction is just the beginning of the journey. Building a strong relationship takes work, communication, and that willingness to grow together.
That's a great point. So go out there, be open to new experiences, be kind to yourself, and don't give up on finding that connection. And most importantly,
have fun.
Have fun. That's it for our deep dive on attraction. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and remember, there's always more to uncover.